Good evening, Brooks. How are you doing today? Welcome to the stream. Great, you got your house clean. I need to do that myself. Need to do some cleaning, get rid of some things as well. But I've got the rest of the week to get it done. And next weekend, I'm going to be all by myself. Wife and children are going out of town. So this is going to be me. Good evening, Diana. Welcome to the stream. Okie dokie. Hold on a second here. I got to move this. Sorry. Move the screen there. The camera. Taking things to the charity. No, I've got some things I need to get rid of. We have a living room set, a couch, and two sofas that we're replacing. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just we've had them for close to 20 years. Am I doing another fundraiser? Okie dokie. No, not right now. Oh, Brooks is taking things, cleaning out and her stuff, and we were talking about charity as in, Goodwill. Take things to like a thrift store, a tag store for charity. But my local Goodwill doesn't take large items like furniture. They have a deal with a local furniture store, furniture outlet, and they get brand new furniture, so they don't accept donations of furniture. So in order to get rid of the couch and the two love seats, I have to take them to another thrift store. But community thrift, I think it's called. I don't know what their actual, if they're, I don't even know if they're a nonprofit. I just know that's the name of the business. But obviously, I'm not going to be moving a sofa and a couch by myself. I'll wait till Tim gets here next weekend, and I'll have him help me. He doesn't know it yet, though. Have I been back to the bar that I was assaulted at? Yes, I've been back there. I went there just last night. Stopped in. I met they're employees of another of the bar at the golf course that I work at. That they work at, but that I golf at. They work there at the bar at the golf course. I met them there. So we all got to sit around and commiserate for a little bit before they had to leave. Where is everybody? I guess people don't want to play trivia tonight, huh? Well, maybe it's the subject matter, the co-ed killer. Yeah, give it a couple more minutes and then we'll start. Either way. In case you're wondering, this is where Ed Kemper is housed at, the state mental hospital in California. He's not in an actual prison. He is in the state mental hospital. Well, thank you for the super chat. Okie dokie. Have a cup of coffee. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You didn't get notification? Oh, I'm sorry, Diana. That's YouTube for you. Sometimes they send them out. Sometimes they don't. I know I know there's a checkbox in there, for send out notifications to subscription feeds. So you should have gotten it. Don't understand why they don't do that. Okie dokie didn't get notification either. Oh, that's odd. Well, that's YouTube for you though. But I was watching the time. Another 30 seconds, and we're going to get this ball going. I have to keep notifications turned on my cell to get them. It can be annoying. Oh, if you have to turn on all notifications, it definitely can get annoying. All right, let's get this ball rolling. First question for tonight. What are Ed Kemper's parents' names? What are his parents' names? A, Clarissa and Edward. B, Clara and Sir Edwin. C, Carnell and Edmund. Or D, Connie and Emil. What are Ed Kemper's parents' names? Well, thank you, Okie dokie. I will definitely get her something. Let's give her the cash. She can get something. Really appreciate that. What are Ed Kemper's parents' names? A, Clarissa and Edward. B, Clara and Sir Edwin. C, Carnella and Edmund. Or D, Connie and Emil. Well, since there's only a few of us here playing, C, and C. The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is C. C is the correct answer. It appears that all three guesses or answers were correct. We nailed that one. We are batting 1,000 right now. Okay. Question number 2. Ed Kemper's father was in World War II. After the war, what did he do while still in the Army? What did Ed Kemper's father do after World War II while still in the Army? A, he tested LSD. B, he tested nuclear weapons. C, he tested remote viewing. Or D, he tested mind reading. What did Ed Kemper's father do after the war? A, B, and A. The correct answer. What did Ed Kemper's father do after the war? The correct answer is B. He tested nuclear weapons. Well, not him personally. He was part of the nuclear weapons testing. He tested LSD. That was done after the Cold War and during the Cold War, but not after World War II, but in between there. All right. Question number 3. In several recorded interviews with Ed Kemper, where he talked about his parents' divorce, how did he describe his time in Helena, Montana with his mother? A, he hated every minute of it. B, he loved Helena, Montana and the great outdoors. C, it was okay, I guess. Or D, not enough animals to torture. How did Ed Kemper describe his time in Helena, Montana with his mother after his parents' divorce? A, he hated every minute of it. B, he loved the great outdoors in Helena, Montana. C, it was okay, I guess. Or D, not enough animals to torture. Hi, Anita. Welcome to the stream, Anita. I hope you had a great weekend. So we have A, and A, and A. Hated every minute of it. Everybody's going with hated every minute of it. The correct answer for question number 3 is actually C. It was okay, I guess. Is how he described it in every single interview when asked about his time with his mother, which he eventually ran away from her and went back to California to live with his father, who he then found out was remarried. But it was okay, I guess. Is how he did every single time. It was kind of like a, whatever kind of reply to it, his time there with her. 4. Question number 4. Growing up, what was Ed Kemper's favorite game he would play with his sisters? What was Ed Kemper's favorite game while growing up with his sisters? A, Doctor and Patient. B, the gas chamber. C, the dating game. Or D, freeze tag. What was Ed Kemper's favorite game to play with his sisters? We have D, B, Doctor, and A. Growing up, what was Ed Kemper's favorite game to play with his sisters? The correct answer is B, as in boy, the gas chamber. He played 2 different games with his sisters, and that he preferred to play. One was called the gas chamber, where he would sit in a chair and they'd act like they were the executioner, and they would actually pretend to give him gas where he would die by in the gas chamber. Or he played a version of the electric chair, where he would pretend to be electrocuted in the electric chair and then fall on the ground and flop around like he had just been electrocuted to death. As a little boy. He said he started playing those 2 games with his sisters when he was about 6 years of age. So it's his version, but his sisters couldn't have been alive, so we know he's probably kind of playing loosely with his timeline. But he said that he had always been playing that game. Yeah, and no wonder why. Whoops. Whoop, 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 whoop. He's here in the state hospital because he's insane. Sick boy, huh? Wow, I was hoping against hope it was freeze tag. Wouldn't have been nice, right? All right. Number 5. Question number 5. After killing his grandmother on August 27th, 1964, what did Ed Kemper do for several hours while he waited for his grandfather to return home from grocery shopping? What did Ed Kemper do while waiting for his grandfather to return from grocery shopping on August 27th, 1964, after killing his grandmother? A, he watched TV. B, he sat quietly and watched out the window. C, he read a true crime novel. Or D, he went for a walk and contemplated what he had just done. What did Ed Kemper do for several hours while he waited for his grandfather to return from grocery shopping? Hi, Short Nice. Welcome to the stream. I hope you had a great weekend. B. Short Nice is going with B as well. After killing his grandmother on August 27th, 1964, what did Ed Kemper do for several hours while waiting for his grandfather to return home from grocery shopping? Anita is going with C. The correct answer is C. He read a true crime book. He does not recall the actual title of it. He said because when he was found to be suffering from schizophrenia, which later on, the doctors believed that he never had schizophrenia, and he still doesn't. He was misdiagnosed, and what he really had was and he still has a border personality disorder, and obviously, homicidal rages. But he doesn't remember it because when he first went to the hospital, this hospital, whoop, right here, this one right here, when he went there the first time, he was given electric shock therapy, and he doesn't remember the name of the book but he said he sat and read the book until his grandfather came home. Then he went outside and met him next to his car and shot and killed him. Then he called his mother and told her what he had done. She said, call the police. So he did. And he just sat and waited for the police to show up. All right. Question 6. Here. Wherever this stupid sign is behind me. All right. While at Casadro State Hospital, what was Ed Kemper's job when he first went to the prison after killing his grandparents? What was his job at the state hospital? A, he was a janitor. B, he administered IQ tests to sexual offenders. C, he worked in the law library, or D, he worked painting murals on the walls. What was Ed Kemper's job at the state mental hospital that after he killed his grandparents in 1964? What was his job? Was he a janitor? Did he administer IQ tests to sexual offenders? Did he work in the law library, or did he work painting murals on the walls of the state mental hospital? Hello, hello, sunshine. Welcome to the stream. I hope you had a great weekend. It was probably in cold blood. Did the electroshock decrease his IQ? No, nope. I think that's one of the questions on here. But his actual IQ originally was tested at one level, and then when he was tested later on, it was actually a lot higher. Hello, you too. So when Ed Kemper was sent to the state mental hospital, and this is a sign behind me of it, what was his job when he first went to the state mental hospital? Hello, Sunshine is going with he painted murals. When he first went there in 1960, actually it was 1965 when he actually went there, but he killed his grandparents in 64. But he went there, was it a janitor? B, he administered IQ tests to sexual offenders? C, he worked in the law library? Or D, did he work painting murals? The correct answer is B, as in boy. He administered IQ tests to sexual offenders. He said it was one of the most favorite things that he's ever done in his life because he got to sit and talk to sexual offenders and learn why they did what they did and how they, where they tripped up and got caught, what they did wrong. Yeah, he used them as case study, but he administered IQ tests to sexual offenders who were sent to the state mental hospital. Were his grandparents abusive? His grandmother. One of the reasons why he said he killed his grandmother was because she reminded him of his mom. I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole of what he said to the investigators. I mean, he sat there nice and calmly. He unloaded his rifle, and when he pulled the trigger on and shot his grandmother, and she saw, at first when she heard him, loading the rifle and then, pulling the trigger, she said, "I hope you're not going to be killing any more birds with that." And then, of course, he shot her at close range with it. It taught him how to get away with stuff. Yeah, but there was well, depending on if it's in here or not. But there's a reason why Ed Kemper got away with it for so long, and we'll get into that if it's not covered in here before we end this tonight. All right, next question. Question number 7. What was Ed Kemper's IQ score when tested in 1965? What was Ed Kemper's IQ score in 1965? A, 110, B, 90, C, 185, or D, 145? What was Ed Kemper's IQ score when he was first tested in 1965? He had his mother's head on the mantle and threw darts at her. Hi, Caroline. And yes, he spent several hours after he decapitated her and cut up her body and torso, screaming at her head and throwing darts at her. I hope you had a great weekend, Caroline, and welcome to the stream. I'm still here. I'm still here. Test, 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 test. If you don't get it before the end of this stream is over with, understand that the rage that Ed Kemper had towards women throughout his entire life was because of his mother. She was the actual sole reason he became as violent as he was. And I mean that's from he's still alive. I think he's 72 or 73 now, and still there in the state mental hospital. He'll never be released. Hi, Jen. Welcome to the stream, Jen. Jen for Anu. So I always blame the mother. Hello, Sunshine. When he was a little boy, she used to take him from a little boy till he became an adult. Well, not an adult. He was a teenager at this point. She used to lock him in his bedroom at night with a lock on the outside of the door. And then when she moved to Helena, Montana, after the divorce from his father, she locked him into the basement, and the only thing in the basement was a bed that was one of those old beds that had the springs and then a thin mattress on it and one blanket and a pillow. He had no bedroom furniture. He had no clothes that he was allowed to keep in the basement. Nothing. And she locked him away in there because he was too big and she was afraid of him. He had no violent outbursts at all at this point. Nobody knew what he was really doing. She was just scared of him and didn't want to deal with him and was afraid that he was going to hurt his sisters because he was so big. Because by the time I think he was 16 years old, he was already 6 feet and weighed around 220 pounds or something like that. He was a big kid as a teenager. And she would leave him there. They would have breakfast, and go amongst their day, get cleaned up, and once his sisters left in the morning, she would then unlock the door and allow him to come upstairs. And he never got to eat off a plate when he was a teenager, or before he was a teenager. She put his food into a plastic bowl and said, "Here's your food," like feeding it to a dog. So yeah. He had a lot of rage built up, against her. His mother moved him down into the basement. She was worried about the girls. Yep, she definitely was. So what was Ed Kemper's IQ when he was tested in 1965? The correct answer is D as in dog, 145 in 1965. After receiving electroshock therapy and being arrested after committing all of his murders and retested for his IQ score after going back to the Atascadero State Mental Hospital in California, his IQ test scores in the 90s were 173. So if the electroshock therapy was supposed to stop him from having schizophrenic, impulses, which he never had schizophrenic impulses, he was misdiagnosed, it certainly didn't hurt his IQ. 173. All right. Question number 8. Of all of Ed Kemper's victims, who was his favorite victim? Who was Ed Kemper's favorite victim? A. Akito Ku, his mother, Carnell Strandberg. Obviously, that's her maiden name. C. Maud Matilda Kemper, or D. Cindy Shaw. Who was Ed Kemper's favorite victim? Akito Ku, his mother, Carnella Strandberg, C. Maud Matilda Kemper, or D. Cindy Shaw. His mother, B, his mother, A, D, B, his mother. Of all of Ed Kemper's victims, who was his favorite? Caroline Maslin. He loved his mother. Hello, Sunshine has changed your answer to A. Don't think he loved his mother. If he loved her, he loved to hate her. Well, was it? His father had an interesting quote about his mother. It was he spelled out like all the days that he served in the war were was it, how did he put that? It was it's like whatever it was. Yeah, 900 days. While in the war in World War II was easier than the 15 years that he spent with her. He really did not like her after they divorced, but he remarried and he had a new family and everything else, and that's what happened after Ed Kemper ran away from home in Montana and went to back to California to be with his father. He found out that his father had remarried and had a whole new family, more children and everything. And that's why his father said, "You can't stay here. We just don't have room for you here." And he sent him off to live with his grandparents, which, we all know on August 27th, 1964, he ended up killing both of them. It was a young girl, but I can't remember her name. Okie dokie, his youngest victim was Akito Ku. She was 15 years old. She was a high school student and a very talented ballerina. Of all his victims, Ed Kemper's victims, who was his favorite victim? We have Jen. We're getting to that one. His brother's coming up. Of all of Ed Kemper's victims, who was his favorite victim? The correct answer is B, his mother, Carnella Strandberg. He said that the day he killed her, he felt the release that he had never felt from any of his other victims, that he felt like the world and the pressure and everything that had gone wrong in his life had been removed from him. His mother. That's true, okie dokie. We definitely should. There's a scholarship that's been set up in her name. It's been there ever since she was killed. It was started by her father. It's for I believe it's in the performing arts. It's a performing arts scholarship. After being released from the state mental hospital on Ed Kemper's 21st birthday, what job did Ed Kemper eventually get and keep long term? After being released from the state mental hospital on his 21st birthday, what job did Ed Kemper get and keep long term? A, taxidermist. B, a highway employee. C, roadside kill cleaner. Or D, a cop. What did Ed Kemper do after being released from the state mental hospital on his 21st birthday and keep long term? Taxidermist, highway employee, roadside roadkill cleaner, or a police officer? What did Ed Kemper do? He is the most interesting serial killer to me. Him and Bind, Torture, Kill. They are both very interesting. I'll give you that. Raider is an interesting death. He's something and you could go down and study for a long time. I mean, he had so many people fooled. So we have B, highway worker. Gen Z, I'm going with ZB. I'm going with, guessing it's B. Brooks is going with C. Caroline Masculine, the last one, which is a police officer. She's going with D. After being released from the state mental hospital on his 21st birthday, what job did Ed Kemper get and keep long term? The correct answer is B as in boy. He worked for the state of California Highway Patrol System administration. He was a highway worker. He was never a police officer, although he always wanted to be a police officer. He had an interest in taxidermy. His best friend growing up was a taxidermist and collected other small animals like bobcats and stuff like that that had been taxidermed. But he was a highway worker. Sorry, I started reading the other one before looking at my notes there. You got one? Maggie's Journey. Hi, Maggie. Welcome to True Crime Trivia. Tonight we are doing Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer. We are doing trivia. These are all multiple choice questions. Every single question has 4 choices, A, B, C, or D. I hope you enjoy the trivia. All right, next one. We all know Ed Kemper killed his mother. What did he do with her head afterwards? This should be easy if you just scroll up. A, he screamed at it and threw darts at it. B, he had sex with her head. C, he threw it in the trash. Or D, he mailed it to a friend. What did Ed Kemper do with his mother's head? Hi, Little Miss Sunshine. I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to the stream. We are playing True Crime Trivia tonight, and all the questions are around Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer, who is still alive, and whichever, there it is. I am sitting in front of the sign. That's obviously it's a green screen, but that is the sign for the state mental hospital where Ed Kemper is still residing at the age, I think he's either 72 or 73 now. What did Ed Kemper want? What did Ed Kemper do with his mother's head after he killed her? And dismembered her head. A, he screamed at it and threw darts at it. B, he had sex with it. C, he threw it in the trash. Or D, he mailed it to a friend. The correct answer is A. We were just talking about this a little bit ago. Yeah, he put her head on the mantle and threw darts at it and screamed at her for hours. Then he cleaned up the apartment and everything that that he had done, and then invited her best friend over and then killed her. So the next question, if you scroll up, you can probably find the answer to this one as well, because I just talked about it a little bit ago as well. Growing up, what did Ed Kemper always want to do as employment when he became an adult? What did Ed Kemper always want to do when he became an adult? A, he wanted to be a ballerina. C, he wanted to be a firefighter. C, he wanted to be a police officer. Or D, he wanted to be a serial killer. What did Ed Kemper want to do for employment when he grew up? Really? I've never read that, Brooke, that he had sex with his mother's head. I wouldn't be surprised, because he definitely was a necrophiliac. So we got C, 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 C. No, it was her head that he had sex with. I don't know if he did or not. I mean, I've never read that he had sex with his mother's head. He did with a lot of his victims, that's for sure. It was the only way he could actually get sexually aroused, was to kill his victims and then decapitate them and then have sex with their bodies and their heads. But it was part of his actual release, I guess you'd call it. I'm paying attention, so it's C. I thought he did too. Yes, I've researched him thoroughly. Did you, Jen? So have I. I think Ed is is one of the most interesting. And along with Dennis Rader, but one of the most interesting serial killers that I've ever read about and studied, at great length. I'm going to have to say would be either Ted Bundy, because there's a lot more to Ted Bundy in his story than a lot of people realize. They hear, and they may have known that he worked at a suicide hotline, and that he was a failed at becoming an attorney, and doing the legal stuff, but there's a lot more to Ted Bundy than people actually realize. And then Gary Ridgway, but Rader and Kemper, definitely. I'd put them all in the top 5 of the most interesting serial killers that I've read about and studied. The correct answer, what did Ed Kemper want to do when he became an adult? The correct answer was he wanted to be a police officer. Was he kind of good looking? He was a busy boy, charismatic. Bundy? That was Bundy's definite thing. He was charismatic. All right, next question. What was the number one physical trait Ed Kemper said that attracted him to each of his victims? What was the number one physical trait that Ed Kemper said attracted him to each of his victims? A, long hair. B, slim bodies. C, brown eyes. Or D, a beautiful smile. What was the number one physical trait Ed Kemper said attracted him to all of his victims? Gary Ridgway is really close to my town. Now, or where he was killing? Diana, is Ridgway close to you now, or is his hunting grounds? They were female. A, slim body. B. I have no clue on this one. The number one physical trait that Ed Kemper said attracted him to each of his victims. It's in Cannon City, close to you now. Okay. What was the number one physical trait Ed Kemper said attracted him to each of his victims? He said the number one trait that attracted him was long brown hair. A. What is her name? Akio Ku. She's one of the. There's only two victims that didn't match that profile. Akita Ku and Shaw. I think it's pronounced it. How you pronounce her last name? Shaw. Yeah, Cindy Shaw. Shall. Shaw. The only two victims that didn't match the profile. She had blonde hair, and Akio Ku had black hair. But brown hair, long brown hair for all the other victims. All right, next one. What did Ed Kemper say was his favorite type of music? His favorite type of music. A, classical. B, rock and roll. C, country western. Or D, hip hop. What did Ed Kemper say is his favorite type of music? Oh, Diana, he's never getting out. No. Ridgway is never getting out. He will die in prison just like Ed Kemper and Rader. They're all going to die in prison. Easily distracted. Hello. Welcome to the stream, Easily Distracted. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Caroline, you have 2 right. Now there's plenty of questions left to go still. You might get a whole lot more. But what did Ed Kemper say is his favorite kind of music, type of music? Yes, you did. Good. I'm glad you had a great weekend. It looks like we got a high. Little Miss Sunshine is guessing classical. It's letter A. A is classical. B is rock and roll. C is country western. And D is hip hop. Short and Ice is going with A. Can you repeat this one? Yes, Diana. What did Ed Kemper say was his favorite type of music? A, classical, B, rock and roll, C, country western, or D, hip hop? When you said his IQ was 173, I almost said, wow, that's insane. What did Ed Kemper say was his favorite type of music? The correct answer is A, classical music. He said it was his favorite type of music. All right, next question. Before being captured, Ed loved to hang out at a local bar where law enforcement officers hung out. What was the name of this bar? Before being captured, Ed loved to hang out at a local bar where local law enforcement hung out. What is the name of the bar? A, Off the Cuff, B, Friskum, C, the Slaughterhouse, or D, the Jury Tavern? What is the name of the bar where Ed Kemper hung out, where local law enforcement hung out as well? And FYI, everybody there knew him as Big Ed. He was there so often, he was just a fixture in the place. They called him Big Ed. Hello, Sunshine's got full right. We got C, C, D, and D. What is the name of the bar where Ed Kemper hung out, along with local law enforcement? Before being captured, Ed loved to hang out at a local bar where local law enforcement hung out as well. What is the name of the bar? The options are A, Off the Cuff, B, Friskum, C, the Slaughterhouse, or D, the Jury Tavern. What is the name of the bar where Ed Kemper hung out with local law enforcement? D, C, C, D, D, D. A, and C. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome to the stream, Cheryl. Before being captured, Ed Kemper loved to hang out at a local bar. What was the name of the bar? The name of the bar is D, the Jury Tavern. Still there to this day. The Jury Tavern. They called him Big Ed. All right, next question. What level of security risk is Ed Kemper considered as of 2020 at the state medical facility? This one right here. What level of security risk is Ed Kemper considered as of 2020 at the state medical facility where he's there, where he is currently still at? A, he is a high level risk. B, a low level risk. C, a medium level risk. Or D, he is no risk at all. What security level risk is Ed Kemper considered as of 2020? A, high level, B, low level, C, medium level, or D, no risk at all? A C B A B C? Question mark? A. What level of security risk is Ed Kemper considered to be as of 2020 at the state medical facility? The one that's assigned behind me. A, high level, B, low level, C, medium level, or D, no risk level at all? The correct answer is C, medium level of risk. He is now, incidentally, I mean, this man never wanted to be released from there in the first place. When it kicked him out on his 21st birthday, he didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay there. He enjoyed it. Yeah. Well, is it Darrow State Hospital? Grr, I was in the chat instead of live. I wonder why no one was answering. All right, next question. Before ever killing his first victim, who did Ed Kemper seek help from multiple times and confess that he wanted to hurt his mother? So the question again is, before ever killing his first victim, who did Ed Kemper seek help from multiple times and confess that he wanted to hurt his mother? A priest, B, a school counselor, C, his grandfather's best friend, Earl Tubbets, or D, his father, who obviously hated his wife. Before ever killing his first victim, who did Ed Kemper seek help from multiple times and confess that he wanted to hurt his mother? A priest, B, a school counselor, C, his grandfather's best friend, Earl Tubbets, or D, his father? I have the state mental institution for the criminally insane just down away from me. Wow. See, ours is in the state that I live in is in Medical Lake, which is near Spokane, Washington. And in Spokane has the highest per capita population of sex offenders of anywhere in the United States. More sex offenders have been paroled and released from prison to the Spokane, Washington area than anywhere else. But just outside of Spokane is Medical Lake, where our state mental hospital is. There used to be 3, but they closed one down. So that's on the east side of the state. There's also one on the west side. But Spokane's about 240 miles from me. With A, C, B, 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 D, B. Yep, he does. Carolyn Masklin says, I heard he does audio books for people that can't see. This is absolutely true. He does. And I've got one, I think 1 or 2 questions on here tonight about the audio books. I think, I'm not sure. There's some of them that I didn't make this list, and I'll just toss into a general crime trivia night. But before killing his single victim, who did Ed Kemper seek help from multiple times and confess he was considering hurting his mother? The correct answer is B as in boy, a school counselor, who incidentally never reported it. Did your channel used to be something else? Maggie's Journey? No, not mine. I have been 411 now in one capacity or another. I mean, I have other channels. Maybe that's what you're thinking of, Maggie. I have one channel that I do a podcast with my wife, and that channel is called Taco Podcast. I also have a second channel that I just started just the other day. It's called 411 Now and the number 2. But that one is I'm going through step-by-step instructions on how to start your own YouTube channel. So, but I've always been 411 Now. No, there was never any repercussions against a school counselor. All right, next question. What did Ed Kemper's mother do to him every night before going to sleep? Does anybody want to hear the answer, the options here, or you just want me to tell you the correct answer because we already talked about this? A, she beat him. B, she locked him in the basement or his bedroom. C, she screamed at him. Or D, tell him that he was worthless. What did Ed Kemper's mother do to him every night before going to sleep? She beat him. She locked him in the basement or his bedroom. She screamed at him, or she told him that he was worthless. Okay, sorry. I knew someone out of Spokane that was into van life. I don't know what, Maggie, I don't know. What is van life? Is that like somebody who lives in a van down by the river? I don't know what that is, but I own property near Spokane. It's actually in Idaho. All of the above. B, 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 D, B, 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 Andy. All the above, basically. All. Well, what did Ed Kemper's mother do every night before going to sleep? The correct answer is B as in boy. She locked him in either the basement or his bedroom. At the age of 15, Ed Kemper ran away from home in Helena, Montana, and went back to California to be with his father. How did he get there? How did Ed Kemper get from Helena, Montana, back to California to be with his father? A, he took a Greyhound bus. B, he hitchhiked. C, he jumped on a rail car. Or D, he drove a stolen car. At the age of 15, when Ed Kemper ran away from home in Helena, Montana to California to be with his father, how did he get there? A, he took a Greyhound bus. B, he hitchhiked. C, he jumped on a rail car. Or D, he drove a stolen car. How did he get back home? Yes, I've lived out of a van, sometimes by the river, going on 5 years, mostly desert. Yeah, Maggie. If I know that I don't know if this is a life choice that that you've wanted to do. Maybe you're traveling around, but the comedian Tom Green. Maybe you've heard of Tom Green before. But that is all he is doing right now. It's just him and his dog in his van, which is, well, he converted into kind of like an RV, but he's just driving around the United States, visiting ghost towns and different scenic areas around the United States right now in his van, and then recording acoustic numbers on his guitar. Life choice, you love it. Stick with it as long as you enjoy it. I have friends that they sold off everything that they own, and that's all they do. Is they don't have a permit. They have two addresses. They have one on the East Coast and they have one address on the West Coast where they have their mail forwarded to, and then they have the mail. If they end up closer, at the end of the year, towards the end of the year, out on the West Coast as opposed to the East Coast, then they just have all their mail forwarded to the post office box that's closest to them. So, but they love it. There's no worries. They don't have to pay for electricity. They don't have a water bill or anything else unless they're hooked up in a resort someplace or a campground. But other than that, they just enjoy their life. It must be very empowering to be able to do something like that. So how did Ed Kemper get from Helena, Montana back to California to be with his father when he ran away at the age of 15? The correct answer is B, he hitchhiked. Tom Green used to be married or was Drew Barrymore's husband, boyfriend. Correct, Carrie. And hello, Carrie. I hope you had a great weekend, Carrie. My kids are all grown and married. I went into a deep depression, empty nest syndrome. I do solar installs for free for old people. That's cool. I happen to know somebody who does something like that, who does solar installations, but he travels around the western part. So I think he's in New Mexico or Arizona right now doing that. Starfire 3, nailed it. And well, hello, Starfire 3. Where Grandpa lived out of an old retired school bus. He took the seats out and fixed it up. That's cool. That's what Steve Wallace. I'm like, I could picture the man. I had to think of his name. Steve Wallace did. He just recently purchased an old school bus, and I think they took out half of the seats, and so they can and then convert it into a stealth camping vehicle. I constantly get people who say that I look like him, but I don't see the similarity. All right. See the next one. What reason did Ed Kemper say was the reason he killed his grandmother? What was the reason Ed Kemper killed that he said was the reason why he killed his grandmother? Sorry. All right. A, she was cruel like all women to him. B, she reminded him of his mother. C, she just had to die. D, she wouldn't let him have a cookie. What was the reason why Ed Kemper said he killed his grandmother? A, she was cruel like all women to him. C, she reminded him of his mother. C, she just had to die. Or D, she wouldn't let him have a cookie. Ernest Borgnine lived in a tour bus traveling the country. I think he died too. I'm pretty sure Ernest Borgnine has passed on. I would be surprised if he's still alive. Wasn't Ernest Borgnine in the Dirty Dozen? Somebody have to look that up. If he was in the original Dirty Dozen. Got a lot of B's. A, D, B. Poseidon. Think old Ernie is dead. He was Marty. Adventure. What was the reason Ed Kemper said it was a reason for killing his grandmother? McHale's Navy. Yeah, I mean that's one that the TV show. Those big eyes. I don't think he had big eyes. He was a big man, that's for sure. What was the reason Ed Kemper said was the reason why he killed his grandmother? The correct answer was B. B as in boy. She reminded him of his mother. Didn't he have? Oh. All right, next question. What was the reason Ed Kemper was rejected from going to the California State Highway Patrol Academy? What was the reason Ed Kemper was rejected from going to the California State Highway Patrol Academy? A, he killed his grandparents. B, his size. C, his criminal record. Or D, his IQ. What was the reason Ed Kemper was rejected from going to the California State Highway Patrol Academy? A, he killed his grandparents. B, his size. C, his criminal record. Or D, his IQ. B, A, C. Or C, both killed grandparents because his criminal record. What was the reason Ed Kemper was rejected from going to the California State Highway Patrol Academy? He killed his grandparents. B, his size. C, his criminal record. Or D, his IQ. Hello, Sunshine is hedging bets by going AC. Well, the reason for Ed Kemper was rejected from the California State Highway Patrol Academy. The correct answer is B as in boy, his size. Next question. What did Ed Kemper do with every one of his victims after killing them? What did Ed Kemper do with every one of his victims after killing them? A, he played dress up with them. B, he threw darts at their heads. C, he had sex with them, and necrophilia. Or D, he took pictures with them. What did Ed Kemper do with every single one of his victims after killing them? Okie dokie, because his juvenile record was what? Sorry, I'm still reading that before the damn thing went by. Wasn't counting his several of the psychiatrists at the state mental hospital before he was released on his 21st birthday had written letters to the state to expunge his actual record, and they did. They expunged his record by blacking out his actual criminal record and what he was there for at the state mental hospital. And what actually tripped him up and eventually was when he purchased a handgun. He purchased it legally, and the officer came to the home after he was tipped off from somebody else who could still read through the Xerox copy of the paperwork and see what was written behind the blacked out part on the report of why he was there in the state mental hospital. So he came to retrieve the handgun from Ed, who everybody knew. The officer knew exactly who he was because he had had beers with him at the jury tavern. But his juvenile record was expunged. What did Ed Kemper do with all of his victims after killing them? The correct answer is C. He had sex with every single one of his victims. Necrophilia. He practiced with every one. Little Miss Sunshine, 411. I saw someone ask if his mother had long brown hair. Can you answer that, please? His mother had long brown hair, as in just past her shoulder length hair, but she definitely had brown hair. All right, next question. While Ed Kemper was active, sorry, forgot to turn the camera back on. I'm still here. All right, while Ed Kemper was actively killing, another serial killer was killing in the same exact area as him. Later, Ed Kemper became friends with this individual in jail. While Ed Kemper was actively killing, another serial killer was killing in the same exact area. There's a rarity. And they met and they became friends in jail. Who was this other serial killer? A, Arthur Lee Allen. B, Edward Charles. C, Roy Norris. Or D, Herbert Mullins. While Ed Kemper was actively killing, another serial killer was killing in the same area. Ed Kemper became friends with this man later on in jail. Who was it? A, Arthur Lee Allen. B, Edward Charles. C, Roy Norris. Or D, Herbert Mullins. Hey, hi, that girl. Welcome to the stream. I hope you had a great weekend, that girl. We are playing true crime trivia, but this is the Ed Kemper edition. We are the co-ed killer in California. The question that we are currently, these are all multiple choice. Everyone has 4 options. While Ed Kemper, this is the question where everybody's answering right now. While Ed Kemper was actively killing, another serial killer was killing in the same exact area. Later, Ed Kemper became friends with this killer in jail. Who was it? A. Arthur Lee Allen. B. Edward Charles. C. Roy Norris. Or D. Herbert Mullins. Don't visit him. You'll say C. While Ed Kemper was actively killing, another serial killer was killing in the same exact area. Ed Kemper later became friends with this individual in jail. Who was it? The correct answer is D as in dog, Herbert Mullins. How convenient for him. It's one of the reasons why it took so long for them to actually catch Ed Kemper, because when they originally started finding the bodies, of boys and young women, they didn't know if it was one person or if it was two people. Originally, they were like, "Well, who the hell's killing all these people?" But anyways, next question. While serving time in adjoining cells with Herbert Mullins, how did Ed Kemper get Herbie, that was his nickname, Herbie, to stop singing? How did Ed Kemper get Herbie to stop singing when they were in jail in adjoining cells? A, he offered him and gave him soda. B, he gave him peanuts. C, he shared pornographic pictures with him. Or D, he told him stories of his kills. While serving time in an adjoining cell with Herbert Mullins, how did Ed Kemper get Herbie to stop singing? Herbie was his nickname. Herbert Mullins. They called him Herbie. Offered him soda, gave him soda. B, gave him peanuts. C, shared pornographic pictures with him. Or D, he told him stories about his kills. That girl, what was he famous for? Ed Kemper? Well, they called him the co-ed killer. There was actually more than one co-ed killer, but he shares that name with another serial killer. But they called him the co-ed killer, and he's famous for his size. That, and obviously he was a necrophiliac. And all of his victims, except for his grandparents and his mother and his mother's friends, so four of his victims, but all the other ones he picked up hitchhiking. You're familiar with Edmund Kemper? Oh, well, it was Herbie. Herbie. Herbie killed a priest, and I believe a series of young boys, teenagers, teenage age, younger than teenagers in that age group, I believe. I haven't really researched Herbert Mullins all that much. But while serving time in an adjoining cell with Herbert Mullins, how did Ed Kemper get Herbie to stop singing? The correct answer is B as in boy. He gave him peanuts. Herbert Mullins loved peanuts, and Ed Kemper, in the interview with him there at the whatever how you pronounce the stupid name is behind me there. Acadero State Hospital. He called it, how did he put it? Behavior modification. Something that he had learned while he was there at the first time at the state hospital for killing his grandparents. He learned that it was, if he gave him peanuts, it was a behavior modification, and it worked. That's how he got him to stop singing, because otherwise he would sing all day long and all night long. Next question. If it wasn't for his confession to killing his mother and her friend, what did Ed Kemper plan to do? What did Ed Kemper plan to do? A, go on and finish college. B, become a local police officer. C, become a prison guard. D, work at the state hospital here, where he had been a patient previously. If it wasn't for the confession to killing his mother and her friend, what did Ed Kemper plan to do? His IQ was 140, 145 when it was tested in 1965. Should I do it again? Atascadero. That girl, police, but he was too tall. Hi, Cheyenne Johnson, or Cheyenne Johnson. Welcome to the stream. I'm late. What happened? We're playing True Crime Trivia, Ed Kemper edition. Ed Kemper, the serial killer. He was otherwise known as the co-ed killer. All these questions are trivia questions, and each one of them has 4 options. And the question that I just read, and it's either A, B, C, or D. If it wasn't for the confession to killing his mother and her friend, what did Ed Kemper plan to do? Finish college, A. B, become a local police officer. C, become a prison guard. Or D, work at the state hospital where he was an inmate before. B, C, C, B, 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 B. The policemen were annoyed with him also, but he was acting innocent and getting insider information. Well, yeah. When he hung out at the jury tavern, that he had become friendly with all of them. They all called him Big Ed, and he would sit there and he would talk to them, and he'd get inside information on how their investigation was going into his crimes. Very true. He most definitely did that. The answer to the last trivia question is B as in boy. Even though he was rejected from the California State Highway Patrol Academy, he still wanted to become a police officer, but a local police officer. He was hoping to still become a law enforcement officer of some sort. Ed Gein is your favorite? I hope you do trivia on him. Ed Gein, I'll definitely take that into consideration. That girl. Ed Gein is an interesting, in a sort of way, but very it's the best way to put it. Kind of scary. I have to think about the general audience, and when I do these. And I know that Ed Kemper is not the most prolific or the most high profile killer out there, but I think people enjoy the general crime trivia more. So I might do one of these trivia is just about an individual, maybe once a month, but then the other Sundays I'll do just general crime trivia. All right, next question. After his trial and conviction of 8 murders, what did Ed Kemper request the court do on the record to him as a sentence? What did Ed Kemper want the state to do to him as a sentence? A, electrocute him. B, put him in the gas chamber and kill him that way. C, torture him. Or D, hang him. What did Ed Kemper want the state of California to do with him as a request on the record to him as a sentence? A, electrocute him. B, gas chamber. C, torture him. Or D, hang him. Has always been for Ed McGinn. Oh, Ed Gein is definitely an interesting individual. Leatherface, yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho. We're all about Ed Gein. Well, not 100%, but he was definitely an influence for those characters. I think Alfred Hitchcock said that Ed Gein was how did he put it? He didn't use the word influence. He was kind of like a character that he used to base the character on. But after his trial and conviction of 8 murders, what did Ed Kemper request the court do to him as a sentence on the record? A, electrocute him. B, gas chamber. C, torture him. Or D, hang him. The thing about Ed Gein is that there was never any proof of them killing but one person. Ted Bundy? What did he want the state of California to do to him as a sentence for after he was convicted of 8 murders? The correct answer is C, as in cat. He asked the court to torture him. On the record, in court, he actually said that he wanted the court to torture him, not to send him back to the state mental hospital. He wanted to be tortured. All right. Somebody had asked about this question earlier, but the next question is, of all the audio books that Ed Kemper recorded, which did he say was his favorite audio book that he has recorded? A, Flowers in the Attic. B, The Glass Key. C, The Rosary Murders. Or D, 101 Dalmatians. Of all the audiobooks Ed Kemper has recorded, which did he say was his favorite? A, The Flowers in the Attic. B, Glass Key. C, The Rosary Murders. Or D, 101 Dalmatians. State mental hospital would qualify as torture? I guess. He actually has a pretty nice life there. He enjoys it there. I don't know, but I love Flowers in the Attic. B, D, 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 A, D, D, D. But yes, Ed Kemper records audiobooks, and he was once the actual president of the audiobook recording and audio mastering files department that records audiobooks and preserves things, in audio form for those who are visually impaired. Somebody had asked or said something about that earlier. To repeat the question, of all the audiobooks that Ed Kemper has recorded, which did he say was his favorite? A, Flowers in the Attic. B, The Glass Key. C, The Rosary Murders. Sorry. Or D, 101 Dalmatians. I have to keep on drinking water because my allergies are just killing me. Otherwise, it's like, I can't talk. Chris, what's up, homie? How you doing, Chris? Welcome to the stream. I hope you had a great weekend, Chris. Hi, Rupal. How you doing, Rupal? I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to the stream. Me too. My nose is dry. I'm in Nevada, soon back to Western Washington. At least you live in Western Washington. I'm on the east side. And right now, everything is a bloom. I took my antihistamine earlier. It got rid of most of the congestion. It's just now it's like the phlegm in my in my throat, and it's like. Bank holiday weekend here, so includes Monday where you are. Patricia Dale. Welcome to the stream, Patricia. 101 Dalmatians is her guess. Looks better. I finally got in to get it done. He asked me when I was there and had it trimmed up if I wanted to have it dyed. I was like, no, I have no desire to dye it. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, no, I'm good. But thank you. All right. What was Ed Kemper's favorite audiobook that he recorded? His favorite is The Rosary Murders. C was his favorite audiobook that he recorded. All right, next question. When is Ed Kemper's next parole hearing? When is Ed Kemper's next parole hearing? A, 2021, B, 2025, C, 2023, or D, 2022? It's like the answer's right there in front of me, and I can't even read it. When is Ed Kemper's next parole hearing? Yes, he did, Maggie. He did 101 Dalmatians. He actually did there's an entire series in the library of him that he did. I think there is 17 or 18 of the books by Dr. Seuss. And in that series, there's also I think 5 Disney books. I know Lady and the Tramp is in there. Like that was the first one at the top of the list. But it's actually called the Seuss file or Seuss library. He did a whole series of children's books. because they're not just for adults, and some adults want to hear children's books done in audio format. I don't know if you can get them outside of the penitentiary system. I mean, I'm sure somebody's probably taken them out of the prison. Who is Ed Kemper? Ed Kemper is a serial killer, otherwise known as the co-ed killer. He was active, if he killed in California. He was convicted of 8 murders, not including that he killed his biological grandfather first in 1964. He was sent off to he was sent here in 1964 because he was diagnosed as being schizophrenic. And he was there until his 21st birthday when he was released. And they said that he was, cured. But what he did was he actually just learned, to what the correct answers that they wanted to hear. And then, he got out. He fooled them all. They even redacted his criminal record. So when he was released on his 21st birthday, he had no criminal record. And then he went on and he killed his mother. He killed his mother's best friend, and eight total after his grandparents. Okie dokie is going with 2024. When is Ed Kemper's next parole hearing? Correct. The correct answer is B as in boy, 2025. And incidentally, twice Kemper was supposed to have parole hearings, and he formally requested that they don't have a parole hearing for him. He didn't want it. He said, no, I don't want a parole hearing. So they withdrew his parole hearings. He is on the record as saying convicted serial killers shouldn't be allowed back in society. Wikipedia must have it wrong. I don't know. I've never checked the Wikipedia on him. He is 6'9". He is a big man. Big man. All right. Next question. He lost his mind, or is he trolling the judge? His most recent parole. Chris, he doesn't want to be released. He knows the mental institution there where he's at, and he knows it, better than anywhere else in the world. So the next question is Ed Kemper's brother, David Weber, has said what about his brother bothers him the most. What did his brother, David Weber, say about Ed Kemper? A, he will kill again. B, he loved and he killed his mother. He loved that he killed his mother. C, he has more victims than we know. Or D, he is in fear of being released. What did David Weber, his brother, say about Ed Kemper? Bothers him the most. I'm sorry, the things are flying by here, so I'm trying to C, D, 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 C. I'm guessing D, D. He is AV family killer. I've been more scared to be related to him. It, David Weber is, I guess, technically his half brother. I don't think they're well, yeah, because it's his dad's. After his parents' divorce, his dad remarried and had a whole new family. And when he ran away from home at the age of 15 from Helena, Montana, he moved and he got to California. He looked his dad up and he found out his dad had remarried and already had children. David Weber is one of those children from his father's second marriage. So, right? So he'd be a half brother because he doesn't have the same mother and father. So he'd be a half brother, right? I think that's how they count that. David Weber. He absolutely hates Ed Kemper, by the way. This is probably one of the nicest things that he's had to say about him. ACAA. David Weber said, what about his brother bothers him the most? The correct answer is D as in dog. That Ed Kemper is in fear of being released. That's what bothers him the most. Next question. What is Ed Kemper's hobby there at this? There. What is his hobby? Ed Kemper has a hobby, everyone. Yay. What is Ed Kemper's hobby? He calls his outlet to remove his urges. That's a quote. His outlet to remove urges. What is his hobby? A, painting. B, writing. C, poetry. Or D, singing. What is Ed Kemper's hobby? And by the way, doing the audiobooks, that's his job. He actually gets paid to do the audiobooks. It's not a hobby. Messing with the Mullins. Stepbrother, he is his father's wife. Is that what David Weber is, his stepbrother? I'm terrible at those things, man. People ask me, about my relatives, well, how is this person related to you? And I'm like, all right, my sister's husband's sister. And I'm like, that's what it is. That's how she was related to me. And I'm like, I can't figure this stuff out. Just, I don't know. For some reason, I'm like, okay, that's my daughter. That's my son. That's my wife. I can do that stuff. Or that's my sister. That's my dad. That's my mom. I can figure that stuff out. But when you get into this is the husband, and this is and this is the sister, or here's the children from one marriage, and here's the children from another marriage. I can't figure that stuff out. For the life of me, even if I knew it, I wouldn't remember it tomorrow. For some reason, it just won't stick in here. Painting, they always bloody paint. I'll say C, he's so intelligent. Herbert Mullen. He seems to be a deep thinker. Psycho-opticals. Writing. If anybody has seen the documentary that is on Netflix about Ed Kemper, you would know the answer to this one. What's the question, Caroline? What is Ed Kemper's hobby at the state hospital where he is at? He calls it his outlet to get rid of urges. What is his hobby? A, painting, B, writing, C, pottery, or D, singing. What is Ed Kemper's hobby? A lot of people think that his hobby is actually doing the audiobooks, but that's actually his job. Doesn't get paid much to do it, but he gets paid. Nope, but I'm going to watch it soon. It's sure nice. It's a really, really good documentary. I don't remember what the actual name of it is, but I'm sure if you go into and just search on any documentaries on Netflix, you should be able to find it. At least it was on there the last time I watched Netflix. That was about 2 weeks ago. I watched it. That's where I used to base all these questions off the documentary, along with another one that was done on his early life. All right. What is Ed Kemper's hobby? His hobby is pottery. And in the documentary, you will find, you'll learn in the documentary that he actually made a coffee cup and mailed it to the psychiatrist that he originally had back in the 60s when he was sent to this state hospital in California. He made him a coffee cup and mailed it to him. So he inscribed it with the and put a dedication on it and everything. But his hobby is pottery, and it's an ugly freaking mug. It really is. That's it. That is all 30 questions. Is he also portrayed on Mindhunter? Somebody else was telling me about that. Magellan TV. I don't have that. I've never heard of Magellan TV. Is it like cable or satellite? What do you think about Pee Wee Gaskin? Oh my God, he even killed when he was on death row. Really? The name Pee Wee Gaskin is it's not ringing a bell with me right now. I'm sorry. I'm sure that someone said earlier, Mind Hunters. Is that the name of it? I rarely ever watch television, and somebody had pointed out, I think it was not this past Sunday, the Sunday before this one, but we were doing crime trivia, and Ed Kemper had come up on there, and somebody had told me about the Netflix one, so I actually purposely went out of my way to look up the Ed Kemper one, and I watched it right here on online. I actually had to download the Netflix app and everything, and then I had to ask my wife what the actual password was, because I don't know. I don't know what the password to our Netflix is. He had no shame. There's a great documentary with his daughter, somewhere. It's good and so raw about Pee Wee. Oh, I'll look it up. Mindhunters is on Netflix. Okay. And so that's the name of the one on Ed Kemper. I don't remember what it was called. I just looked it up online. I was sitting here like Netflix Ed Kemper, typed it in, and it came up with the Netflix thing, and then I clicked on it, and then I had to download the app, and then I had to walk back inside and ask my wife what the password was for Netflix, because I never use it. So I just don't remember what it was called. Thanks, Will, and have a good night. You too, Short and Nice. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you have a great week ahead. He is one who was featured. There's another series that's on Netflix. It's about death row or inmates, I think it is. I watched it like right afterwards. I watched like I think there's 7 or 8 episodes of it. There might be more, but I watched somewhere in there about that many episodes. The documentary is where I learned about Pee Wee. I felt so bad for his daughter. But I can't remember. It was what, because the lady who did the series that I watched on Netflix, she used to be a reporter for the BBC, and she has since left the BBC. I think she is with ITC or IVC, or something like that. Some kind of 3-letter acronym for a channel. Well, this is my favorite thing about YouTube. When I found this, I felt, oh my God, this is the place for me. That's cool. I think do you use Twitter? That girl? Are you that girl on Twitter? Yeah, that's it. RuPaul, ITV. But she's on ITV now. But it was the first one that she did was on. Well, there's multiple parts to it, but on Netflix, they talk to was women on death row or something like that. And no, well, there's somebody on Twitter that uses the name That Girl. But it had the first one that I watched was on Darlie Rotier. Was the first one that I watched, and then there was one on what is his name? Sam something or other. It killed his parents back in the 80s. After a while, my head is just filled with all this, this true crime, and I have to let it go. Suzanne Reed, that's her name. Thank you. See, RuPaul's on this stuff, man. An older song. I'm That Girl in reference to Edwyn Collins' song. Oh, that's cool. Well, I just know I have somebody who pops up on my Twitter feed that goes by That Girl. I just see the name every once in a while pop up on my Twitter feed. Darlie Rotier is an interesting subject. Yeah. Will, are you still friends with Cece? I watch her when I can catch her, but I sleep late and she is on early. She is one sweetheart. I'm split in her. I never met a girl like you before. Huh. I'm going to have to look that song up after this. Sorry, I'm trying to read the thread here, and it keeps on jumping. The worst thing is the daughter's sons, people's connected to the serial killers or bad family who are okay and then are tarnished. Yeah, very good point, RuPaul. Nita says that she heard that Pee Wee has a weed line. You know who has a weed line? The the guy who played Steve Urkel on, was it Family Matters? He has his own weed line. Did she do it or not? Did Darlie do it? I'm 100% convinced that Darlie killed her boys. I've read a lot about it, and I just don't see that the evidence points to anybody else. Yep, Urkel has got his own weed line. I think here in July. Oh, there's like two other stars, like people who are TV, radio personalities like that have weed lines that are coming out in July. Because both of them are going to be, they're based out of North Carolina, because North Carolina, I believe, just legalized marijuana. Oh, my bad. I meant Steve. Willie Nelson. Yeah, Willie Nelson's got his own rolling papers and marijuana. Cheech Morales, he has his own line. Of course, Snoop Dogg does. Not surprised by that one at all. Did I do that? Yeah, same guy. He's got it. I mean, it's $1 billion, thing. And as more and more states look at, those states that have passed marijuana laws and legalized it, they're like, wow, look at all the money that they're making in taxation. And that's the only reason why it's becoming legal now. Not that it should have been illegal all along. They're becoming legal because, well, now the states are looking at all this money that can be made on taxation. Willie has his own farm. Yeah, Willie ain't having any tax problems anymore. He's not selling his music to pay off the IRS or having to host concerts, with people he doesn't like. It's federally legal now, is it? Well, I don't think it's easily distracted. I don't think it's federally legal. I think that they've taken away the criminalization of it, but that's kind of like a gray area. You can still be arrested for possessing it, federally, I think, or selling it, but I think they took away they decriminalized it, or I read something about something like that. But weed is not legal in any way in North Carolina. It's not, or maybe it's South Carolina, one of the two. I'll have to go back and read the article that I was reading before. It's not decriminalized. I don't know. That's all the way across the United States for me. I live in Washington State. And in Washington State, we have medical marijuana. We have recreational marijuana. So, if you want to smoke it, smoke it. If you don't, don't. Well, I don't care what the hell people do. As long as they don't get behind the wheel of a car and drive, I'm okay with it. I just don't think that it ever should have been criminalized, to the extent that it was, because all it did was disproportionately target, and incarcerate, those of lower, social economic levels and those of race. Nice logo. It reminds you of the MASH one. dispensaries added the tax. Willie Nelson's still kicking. You love Willie. There's a Mike Judge, the comic, and director, writer, Mike Judge, of Office Space, and probably a half dozen different things, cartoon wise that you probably know of. But Mike Judge, he has a new series on YouTube that you can watch. It's called Stories from the Tour Bus. You should watch the ones about Willie Nelson and Charles Daniels. It covers everybody from rock and roll to country stars, hip hop, and funkadelics. George Clinton is on there, with the funkadelics. But they're actual real stories told by real people who used to be on the tour buses with these people, and in some instances he's actually got interviewing the actual person themselves, who the story's about from the tour bus. Office Space is spot on. If you've ever worked in an office, you'll know. Willie has a personal joint roller. That was my friend's dream life goal, to become like Willie. The one thing that I always hated is shortly after Office Space. Shortly after Office Space was done, Mike Judge wrote the script for a movie that was going to be made. It's going to be shot in Canada, and it was called Going Postal, but it never got made because shortly after he wrote the script and they started to put together the cast and interview people who were going to audition for the different roles in Going Postal. I guess there was like a shooting at a postal processing plant somewhere here in the United States, so he kind of shelved it for a while, and it's still in his vault of released movies that he was going to do. Is he 86? Wow. $50K to roll joints? Really? That's a lot of money to roll joints. But check it out, though. Stories from the Tour Bus. He has his own. Mike Judge has got his own channel, but it's not called Mike Judge. It's called something else. It comes up on my news feed every once in a while, and I watch a couple of episodes here and there. But her name is Betty Lou, but we called her Betty Lucifer. Yes, War Pony. Hi, War Pony. Welcome to the stream. We just finished doing True Crime Trivia Ed Kemper edition tonight, but welcome anyways. I hope you had a great week. But he has a CBD line for pets too. Huh. I didn't know that. My buddy Tim, who a lot of people here, may know, he had to put his dog down this past weekend. She lived a long life, but his dog, he had to say goodbye to her. She couldn't drink or eat anymore, and he didn't want to watch her suffer. The vet told him that there was medication that she could probably, take. I don't know if CBD was one of them or not. Wasn't Mike Judge Beavis and Butthead? I believe so. King of the Hill. I think he did a couple other ones too. But Office Space was his first movie. He's actually in Office Space. He's the actor in there. In the part with Jennifer Aniston, when she is working at TGIF Fridays or whatever it is, and there's a scene where Mike Judge is acting with her, and he's talking to her, Jennifer Aniston's character, about flair, how much flair she has, buttons and stuff like that she has all over her vest and stuff like that. That's actually Mike Judge in that role as the manager of the restaurant at Shenanigans. That's what it is. Shenanigans, yeah. And they all worked at what, Penetrode or whatever the hell it was. Her flair. Office Space. I just want my stapler. Was it Milton? Milton wanted his red swing line stapler. I actually watched the thing on CNBC or something like that. Some kind of news program about how much those red swing line staplers, the sales like skyrocketed just after that movie came out. They actually put out an Office Space limited edition one that said Office Space on the top of it. Milton. I could burn this whole place down. My favorite part is him at the beach. Big grains of salt. take me to a competing resort. You need that TPS report? Will. Yeah, Starfire. But he decided that he didn't want to give her medication and prolong her life anymore. I want to say that she was, well, Tim's had her for, I think he said 17 years. So she lived a long life. The first sign was one of her front canine teeth fell out, and he took her to the vet, and they didn't know what was wrong with her at first. But then she stopped eating altogether. So they had to give her medication so she was actually, was able to eat, and then she stopped drinking water, and then she stopped doing both of them altogether, and he took her back to the vet, and he's just like, it's going to be a hard week for him, and well, probably longer than that, but knowing Tim, I mean, that dog's been with him just about everywhere. Well, we're gonna need you to come in on Sarah's day and her Sunday too, Lumberg. Yeah, Lumberg, when he's trying to leave, trying to convince him that, yeah, I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturday and Sunday too. Lumberg. I used to work in an office back in, oh Jesus Christ, how long has that been? A long time ago now. Long time ago. So my daughter's 23. 30 years ago or so. I worked for Country Harvest and King's Table buffet restaurants. Worked in their home office. I hated that job. I hated it. I hated it every day. And I really understand that part, of where, he said that in the movie, the one thing that, he just didn't want to be hassled by, all of his bosses. I had that same issue when I worked for, Country Harvest King's Table. I think I had 4 bosses above me, and every time something went wrong, I could guarantee that I had to listen to it 4 times every single time. Each of them individually would come and talk to me about, this didn't work out. I got that from just the first one. I don't need to hear it 3 more times. But of course, you have to hear it 3 more times because everybody had to have their job and they had to, have their reason for being there. I get up at 5 a.m. whether I need to or not, and it's past 11. So I love you all. Thank you. Well, have a good night. Good night, okie dokie. Yeah, I get up every morning at 5 a.m. like that. Don't even own an alarm clock. Wake up every day at 5 a.m. My body's just so used to it for some reason. I can't get away from it. If I don't get up at 5, I'm awake. I'll just lay there and stare at the ceiling. Going, why can't I sleep in? Why can't I sleep in? And then finally I just say, screw it, and I get out of bed. Hey guys, I'm glad I made it. Everyone, I have a great night. It's 12:15 here. Hope everyone has a good week. And if not, remember, tire you're strong and make things better. Good night, that girl. Thank you for coming. Hope you have a great week ahead. Same here, 5:20 for you, Rupo. Yeah. We haven't owned an alarm clock, and the 26 years that me and my wife have been married, we've never owned an alarm clock. Well, not technically. We have an alarm clock somewhere, I think, but it's not in our bedroom. It's one of those alarm clocks, but it's got a docking station for an iPod on the top of it. That's how long ago we bought the thing. It's got a docking station for like the first generation, like iPod, but don't know where it is. It's somewhere. I saw it in a box or something somewhere. But everyone, at 5:20 here, that's military time. That's probably where I, for as long as I can remember, probably even before then. But everyone, thank you again for joining me tonight for the trivia. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I will look into possibly doing a Ed Gein or Ted Bundy. If you have another suggestion for somebody else you'd like to see, covered, put it in the comment section after this video is done. The stream is over with, and I will certainly look into possibly doing it. I mean, I've got probably right now 90 more general trivia questions that we can do, but we'll end it there for tonight. Training gets you up, or was it the Army training? I was in the United States Marine Corps, Jen. United States Marine Corps. Hoorah! But thank you again, everyone, and you have a great week ahead, and stay safe out there.